long is it going to take today? Just before hitting the live, I'm telling you, there's always something. And you know, I took a sip, went down the wrong tube. I was over here hawking up a lung. It feels as though I even damaged my vocal cords right before kicking off a live. Perfect. Just how it goes. Can't let it hinder what we have queued up for today. I'm just verifying the live stream, trying to multitask over here. But my goodness, I'm so human. I didn't even really get into the why yesterday. Why so passionate? Why so frustrated? Why touch on this specific narrative? Why beat this dead horse? Because the fact of the matter is we haven't addressed the threats. For frick's sakes, we're going about our lives as though we do not live in a wartime. And it truly blows my mind on the coattails of a scam plandemic, where their solution was safe and effective. They intentionally withheld the information, the known thousands of negative side effects. When an institution, governments, news agencies, everything was used against us to withhold known information, it no longer becomes innocent, adverse side effects. When they're withholding that information and they know, and they're peddling and pushing that from every angle they can upon the masses, what does that tell you? These are intended outcomes, not side effects. That in and of itself, my dear brothers and sisters, tells us what? War is being waged upon us. We didn't answer that call. Wow, this tone really goes with the elevator music, right? Maybe let's officially kick things off. Welcome to a muzzle chat. Today is going to be another mindless rant from yours truly. No, I'm going to try my best to really get into the why, the essence of the why, and what I have felt. And that's all I can do. I can talk about things from just how I feel, how I see it, life experience, information I've come across, and I leave it to you. I'm not telling you how to live. It's just, please come to the conclusions for yourself. At a minimum, though, we got to do our due diligence. We can't continuously go on this path of ignorance. We are going to get what we get. And what else, kind of just to finish up that last point, what else would we expect when intended outcomes in war biologically was being... We don't even need tunage. Frick tunage today, folks. Let's just get into the nitty gritty. We didn't properly address any of the scam plandemic. That was the biggest distribution of wealth we have ever seen recorded in human history. It is mind-numbing that the masses are trying to just go back to a life of normacy. There is no life of normacy with that level of warfare being waged upon the masses. And that distribution of wealth has just transitioned. Okay, great. They peddled it. They pushed it. They wanted us. We could see the writing on the wall. They wanted us to line up with a life full subscription month after month, getting your boosters. Then they didn't have to resort to the more covert methods because we signed up to be the lab rats at that point. So we've kind of forced their hand, and good on us for doing so. We at least pushed back enough that they couldn't continue effectively for us to get that life script of boosters. Congratulations, but we didn't address the threat nonetheless. And here we have an administration, a current sitting president, still praising warp speed, still praising Pfizer, the ones behind it, didn't do anything about the immunity. These vaccine companies hold the only industry ever to obtain that on governmental levels. Unbelievable. Allowing pharmaceutical companies to still advertise. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox and touch on the why. Instead of just mindlessly ranting. Folks, I feel like the canary in the coal mine. And for those that don't understand historically the importance of this little bird that miners would take down into mines, let me explain it to you. The phrase canary in a coal mine originates from the historical practice of using canaries, which is that little bird, in coal mines to detect dangerous gases, particularly carbon monoxide, which is colorless, odorless, and highly toxic. Miners carried cages of canaries into mines because these birds, due to their small size, rapid breathing rate, and high metabolism, were more sensitive to the poisonous gases than the humans. If toxic gases were present, the canaries would show signs of distress or die before the gas levels became lethal to the miners, providing an early warning to evacuate. This practice began in the late 19th century, with use of canaries becoming widespread by the early 20th century, and was formally mandated in some regions by 1911, requiring miners to carry 2 small caged birds per shift. Now, how am I kind of comparing myself to this bird, will you ask? Here's even some pictures of it. It's a real picture, old miner holding that little canary in that cage. Some other historical images. But anyway, I'm human after all. I'm not this little bird. Well, we all know. Those that have tuned into Unmuzzled Chat for long enough have known I'm dealing with a bioweapon called Lyme disease, dating back to its origins like 1950s, 60s, 70s. Okay? Plum Island, just off the coast of Lyme, Connecticut. Yes, there's a bioweapons lab. There's no secret. You could read the book Bitten, goes over it. Chris Newby goes over it in alarming depth. Well, this has diminished my neurological state, and we all know, well, those that have researched it, Lyme, at a bare minimum, is causing mass inflammation on a cellular level throughout the whole body. So in a way, like this frail bird, I feel as though I'm more susceptible, I'm more sensitive to other things, whether it be a cold, whether it be a flu, whether it be whatever it may be. And dang it, folks, the why for me right now, excuse me, my voice is wrecked, is when I'm out here in nature. Okay, let's just pretend for a second. Now, I believe I've honed in on really what is impacting us on this level, and me specifically, but it's all of us. This is not a soapbox like me. This is a concern I'm noticing on behalf of all my other brethren. And could this be as to why we're just that much more heightened irritability, that much more frail ourselves, that much more radio reactive over situations of things where we love someone? It could be a partnership, it could be a family member, a best friend that you've known forever. We'll literally get at each other's throats over words or a political or religious ideology. It historically never was this extreme. So there's countless examples we could tie into the situation, but to stay on point, when I'm out here in nature, away from the city of things, I'm sleeping better, I'm more rested, I have more energy, I have clearer thoughts, my general function's better, and that impacts everything from my interactions socially, just my relationships, everything, because I'm just not suffering as much inside. If this makes any sense. It carries over to all aspects, everything in life. And to sum it up, it's like my irritability, like I just have more bandwidth and I can be more chill, less radioactive, more present, more in tune out here. But I'm noticing something, folks. And please chime in. Put comments, put links, put whatever you can to attribute what you believe this is to. But when I go down to the societal, the heavier populations, I go in Arizona. So I'm in Arizona right now. I'm more so up in the mountains, barely have a cellular connection. Okay. And I don't need to travel far from here. I mean, I could go walking distance to where that's nilch. But when I'm down there in the valley, at a minimum, my irritability is through the roof. Things that, non-significant things that shouldn't even pose a response emotionally, words, a reaction, I'm reacting to. So it's like inflammation at a bare minimum is causing this irritability, and there's like a noise. I don't know how to explain it, but there's a level of discomfort I'm experiencing down there every time I go down there. And I have noticed the longer I'm down there in the valley, essentially civilized population, right? And if you're not familiar with Phoenix, I'm in the East Valley, but there's millions of people. Cookie cutter homes. It's a pretty dense population. It's not like Phoenix, being in the heart of Phoenix, but it's pretty severe. And it's pretty much like any of America's cities. Okay. And there's an antenna search. Maybe I'll pull that up. You can even just look up antennasearch.com, I believe, punch in your zip code and see as to how many cellular towers, things of that nature. Like, so, and find out, I believe mine was around 300 within a 3-mile radius, which is pretty alarming. But anyway, I'm just sitting here questioning and asking, what is having this drastic impact? And so many want to chalk it up. Oh, well, the air's cleaner and maybe elevation, things along those lines. But if I'm okay, sure, to a degree, but this is like an extreme shift. What is that? Like, that doesn't explain that. Not at all. And it's immediate. You can come, folks, you got to get out enough. And this is what it is. If you're healthy enough, if you don't have these other bioweapons, you may not be like this frail bird and feel it, but it's so real to me. There's no placebo. It's not like I'm making this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. And last I was down there, I was literally openly having discussions with all those around. And luckily they've been in tune with my situation long enough. Like, they see it, they get it. And it's wild because it's like, it brings all these other thoughts as to why are we not effectively, properly even acknowledging we're at a wartime? Really sit and think about it. Evil hasn't gone anywhere. Satan, the devil, hasn't gone anywhere. The Bible itself even talks about. There was a shocking scripture as I was even looking into. Oh yeah, right here under Satan. We should even look this one up. But in Ephesians 2:1-2, Satan is the temporary ruler over this world. How is it is even Christians or Bible believers, like, we're not even absorbing the real lessons, the true depth of this experience here? It would be entirely devastating, and has been just that we haven't even fully absorbed the roadmap God gifted us to bring meaning, purpose, love, all the light, proper shielding, defenses, discernment. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. I have been. Now, I don't mean to be preaching and shutting everyone down. I'm just sitting here scratching my head. How is it I've lived so long all these things have been going on. We're just wrapped up into the circus of the delusion of choice, politically speaking, all these other things, and we're just not properly. I'm getting too in depth with it. This is where I am also shooting myself in the foot. I need to invite more of you on. We need to have more open discussion. I know I myself do better in communicating with others and sitting here just soapbox and monologuing everything. I get lost. So forgive me. I apologize. I'm doing the best I can, but damn it, at least I'm showing up. Let's be real. How many of you or others are literally showing up and like sound the alarm on this silent war? Because let's be real, if traditional war tactics were being used at us, bullets were whizzing by our heads, if that type of threat, a firearm was at your front door type of enemy, you wouldn't live in denial about that stinking threat at all. But just because the tactics, the methods of war have shifted, we find ourselves quite openly living in a state of denial when the tactics are visual. We can see them, we can sense them, but we rather somehow believe a convenient lie over the inconvenient truth that would lead us to combating and setting us free, in a minimum, protecting this deteriorated state. So that's the why. And I know we've honed in on more than the specific impact I'm feeling there. I believe the infrastructure that we're touching on, or going to be touching on, regarding what I believe directly is correlating why there's more toxicity to there than out here in nature. However, out here in nature, it has never been more threatening, even being out here, than it is now, historically speaking. The same tactics are bleeding out into this atmosphere as well. So there's, even out here is a retreat, is a band-aid, so to speak, because these very methods could be ramped up out here to where essentially there's nowhere we can gain reprieve. It's of the utmost importance. But I digress. Let's dive in to what I believe, and no one is immune to this. Some just have a little more, less head traumas. They don't have Lyme disease. They don't have the historical abuse of substance. Alcohol right here was my best friend for longer. I viewed it like, how delusional was that I viewed alcohol as my best friend for a decade plus. Shamefully, admittedly, that friendship, one-way street, was slow learner. I'm grateful to acknowledge and learn the lessons, get out of it, but I digress. So folks that took care of themselves a little better than I naturally are going to be more resilient to these attacks, but they're happening nonetheless. The diminishing is going to be happening to them nonetheless, and as it gets ramped up, at some point it will be at a level, it will be noticeable across the board if we still obtain a level of consciousness and health in our brains to even at that point acknowledge the deteriorated state we're in, because that is one of the impacts and outcomes of a deteriorated state, is losing the ability to even realize, like that frog on that in the hot water stove analogy, that the water's even getting warmer to the point we are effectively nuked and cooked. And I know there's other data and statistics we could bring into this situation that prove what I'm talking about. Suicide rates, depression, chronic illness, dying suddenly, all the other health challenges we're experiencing across the board all can be directly correlated and connected to this. So it's of the utmost importance we sit down, we do our due diligence, acknowledge the threat, not excuse it like, well, what difference can I make? Is that a freaking option with traditional weapons of war? Can you sit there in your recliner, well, what difference am I going to make on my job? And when bullets are whizzing by your head, just because it's a new... People are just excusing. They can't acknowledge the wartime because what that means, their day jobs no longer matter. Their life as they want it to be no longer effectively exists. And they're having a cognitive issue, like a disconnect, falling into the reality of their situation, but there's not a choice. So I don't even understand how one could try to excuse themselves. I'm frustrated. I'm trying to hit all of this from so many different angles. It just doesn't seem to be sinking in. It doesn't seem to track. And I believe it's the very intended outcome of all the things. This is now that very statement that it's not sinking in and tracking is proof of the intended outcome of said attacks. Because no one in their right mind would idly sit by as they themselves are being diminished, their children, their loved ones. That turns us into a hollow projection of a Christian, of a loved one. We would just be a hollow projection. And it is as real as I am right here. Nothing conspiratorial about it. That's just the reality of the dang world we live in. Suck it up, absorb it. And I'm sorry if you're here and you're like, I'm not just speaking to you. I'm speaking to those that get it like fan freaking tastic. I applaud you. You're at a level we need to bring the masses to. So I'm trying to speak in ways that I don't care if people want to take offense, and the majority of us, are sickened enough that we more so will take offense than sit here and listen to this Lone Ranger rant. So I digress. Let's just go through the actual information queued up today. What will you do about this threat today? Are you a poser, or do you actually care about your loved ones' well-being? Let that sink in, because this is no joke. The influence of electromagnetic field population, also known as EMFs, on human health. A systematic review. And you can see all the MDs that are a part of it. Guys, there are thousands, tens of thousands. And I am not being hyperbolic. I'm not being imaginatory. There literally are tens of thousands of studies that point this out and how damning it is neurologically and to our human makeup on a cellular level. And we're going to tie this together. This coincides with the additional poisons they're pumping into our atmosphere, trying to run under the guise of fighting global warming and climate change. You can't make this stuff up. One is only so impactful. The other is only so impactful. But collectively, it is extremely detrimental. Sources from EMF emissions, smart meters, WLANs, mobile phones, video display units, base stations, radio stations, microwave, electric lines and wiring. Known impacts to your nervous system, increased risk. I can't even pronounce all these things, but it messes with your sleep cycles, neurological degenerative diseases, tinnitus, and other hearing disorders, which, by the way, I'm dealing with levels of tinnitus. And I remember with my former head injuries, I would have the pinging. It was kind of like depicted in the war movies when a bomb goes off, the ringing ensues, but then it dissipates. But I remember that doctor specifically asking, well, do you have the constant ringing? And I was like, no, thankfully, no, I don't. And he explained, well, fantastic. That's a great sign with head traumas. But I was like, do people have it that bad? And he's like, yes. And it literally drives people insane. I was like, wow, I'm extremely grateful. Well, all these years later, it's not just me. So many others are reporting the uptick in tinnitus across the board. and you want to drive me and a lot of those individuals insane, you literally put them in a quiet, padded room with just that ringing. It will literally. So just even that going on in the background, we can't even really effectively put our finger on the pulse as to how impactful that is spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, and neurologically, all memory, everything. It is very extremely detrimental. It's also been proven cardiovascular, circulatory systems. Unbelievable. Reproductive systems. EMF and cancers, folks. This is no joke. And we're seeing the uptick of all these things around us, but we're not acknowledging the dang bullets. We're not at war. You're just, go ahead. It's your choice. Convenient lie. But the fact of the matter is you're not just taking yourself and all your loved ones down with you, because it's a collective effort. I'm sorry. It's like, cool, I'll play a clip. We have RFK speaking out on a lot of things, and I'm grateful that it's making these big microphones, but he's not to be entrusted. He's not going to be our savior. I'm sorry, that level of worship only belongs to one individual, or God the Father, right? Our loving creator, and his Son, and the Holy Spirit. No man. Why would we give our, not just personal energy and power, but our spiritual power away to any one individual? We should be taking this information and running with it. After all, it's your children, it's your loved ones' well-being, futures, everything at stake. I know I'm coming across harsh. This is brutal, but it's days continuously go by. And I continuously see people plug into, frankly, things that don't matter in this life. Doing nothing. Once again, bullets flying by our heads. And I know a lot of this is a hard pill to swallow. But really, is it? Let's bring in the safe and effective narrative, the time we just went through. Over a fake with negative efficacy PCR test, they stood up a fake scam plandemic. Because you look at all of this in the trials, everything they did predates Corona, Wuhan, all those narratives. It was planned, strategically, rolled out with the intended outcome, because you could look at the bioweapons, because the actual substances that made it in those vaccines are actually classified as such. And it doesn't even take an expert to look into all the patents. You just simply look at the outcome. And it literally boosted the mortality rate and death, okay, than those that didn't get it. So what does that tell you other than a weapon, right? And it was injected. Oh, biological. Okay. This isn't rocket science, people. This is very simple. But we're continuously, I don't get it. I am calling out all pastors, all churches, all Sunday spectators, as though, let's be real, hollow projections, labels. The fact of the matter is, God knows. We could sit here and fool our brothers and sisters and be a fake individual through this whole existence and get away with it. People could praise you. They could build a statue. You could be generational. You could be all these things. But God knows where your heart is. We have an opportunity. For frank's sakes, Christ braided a whip, not just to address people that were desecrating God's house. Okay? You den of thieves. He was going against corruption, the theft, which is oppression. Where's the righteous anger? It's like pray for our enemies, right? There's scripture. And I need to refine myself. I need to get better at diving into this. But there's scripture that talks on our enemies. Yes, pray for him. But the ones that have fallen for Satan. God hates. There's level of hate in there. And we're not to pray for God's enemies. When they've chosen and they've made it God's enemy, there's no prayer for them at that point. And we're to be on offense. Not like this weak beta male breeding of the subverted Christian churches in this country is constantly creating. It is such a dumbed down version of Christianity. I doubt it. With this level of warfare playing on, negatively impacting all our loved ones, do you see the loving creator of it all because you provided this or that? I mean, you name it. And focused on the Sunday spectatorship and this beta surface level Christianity. Well done. That's not seizing this moment in time. That's not sticking it to Satan, the temporary ruler over this world. That's not picking up the cross. These are beautiful realizations to have. I just have I'm showing up and I have a limited outreach and I have limited, it's like no singular individual can address this. So the angst in my voice, my energy, as time is just continuously going on, and we're not properly addressing anything, it's ramping up the pressure. Like, what level, what can I do? What can I do for you to have a bigger impact? To have a proper shift to protect you and your children? That is my desire. And I've tried being nice about it. I've tried just letting others, and I've tried posing questions about it. I've tried having others on and going about it in meaningful ways. Because at the end of the day, that's what I want to see. I want to see, is God intended for your health, your ability here? And we must maintain a level of freedom, right? Because God's pro-agency. So we must obtain the agency and choice, right? To get things wrong or right. We can't put laws on everything. Hate speech, get the frick out of here. There is no free speech without hate speech. Feel me? So that is why the passion. I'm continuously going down, and it feels as though the impact is becoming greater and greater and greater. I'm making just observations, and it's like I can see a level and feel a level the longer I'm there. As it settles in, it almost, you grow accustomed to it to an extent. So I need more of you to reach out that are actually having these prolonged excursions from within city dwellings to entirely disconnecting. I know the majority of us, due to the machine, right? The matrix of 9 to 5, at best, someone may get 2 days here, 3 days here, maybe 1 or 2 opportunities a year where it's more than 4 days. And that's it. That's not enough and frequent enough. Like, I've been blessed to test. So I'm really trying to be that canary in that coal mine, so to speak, on your behalf, just sounding the alarm on this, because my gosh, my brothers and sisters, I could see it. I could feel it even around Thanksgiving. I don't want to divulge too much information, but I could see insignificant situations arise to become a freaking blowout where I'm like, these individuals are way wiser than this. They're way more mature than this. Like, this is just wild to me. And this type of outcome, like, dude, you can't even make this up. Like, we're actually deteriorating. We're not growing. It's played out right before my eyes. And I'm not innocent. I'm stepping in it as we speak. All right, let's get through this content, because I'm not making this shit up. Pardon my French. Like, this is, I don't need to speak like that. I just need to hone it in. Forgive me. I'm not making this stuff up. There's nothing conspiratorial about it. It is happening. The evidence is there, and it's black and white. Okay? It's not that I feel this is, and there could be other attributors, right? Water, food. I don't know. Name the list. But I believe the things happen in the sky and all the Internet of Things have a direct correlation. I mean, it just makes basic sense. The more metals you absorb in your body, nanoparticulates, the more your body's going to be impacted by these wavelengths. So here's some of this information for yourself and determine for yourself. But we are at war, and this isn't to be ignored anymore. And we must share this information with everyone we love. Come what may. Plant the seeds. Take the individual clip of this or the next one we're going to play. Just plant those seeds. Get them germinating. So around Christmas, New Year's, you can have a more in-depth conversation. I think this has to do with your tinnitus, sis. Oh, I think this has to do with your irritability, bro. Oh, I think this has to do with these cancers, mom and dad. We're like too fearful, and we don't want to be called a weapon, an intentionally weaponized, strategically CIA operative word known as conspiracy theorist. Really? That doesn't hurt? Throw it at me all you want. In fact, if you actually mean that, I wear it as a badge of honor, and my heart goes out to the individual that's really throwing that out. Like, they're more brainwashed. Like, they're literally openly admitting, I'm brainwashed. Your heart could go out to them. You can empathize with them more. You could try to find a different strategic way, or you could simply, if it's triggering you, you could just focus on those that do get it, that do understand. Because there's a healthy balance for us too, and that's where it's important to build out a community like this poses the opportunity to do, so we're not constantly out there endlessly spinning our tires, burning rubber, replacing the dang tires. It's exhausting. We must have a reprieve and a balance in our lives, and I wish a muzzle chat, and we have to an extent, so thank you. We have built out a community to an extent, but if it isn't as big as you would hope for, well, Stu Peters is out there, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, doing fantastic job. Redacted, Clayton and his wife, great work. Huge community. Millions of views. And you should tap into it, that community, irregardless. Hear this for yourself.
Area and physiological effects on the nervous system and on the immune system.
Radiation from radio frequencies is classed in the same category of carcinogens as lead.
It's 10.
One advisor to the World Health Organization said there's enough evidence that if they were to re-evaluate radio frequency radiation,
it would be placed in class 1, i.e. a human carcinogen.
We could end the whole episode right there, okay? The internet, the Google machine, the AI, everything that they have control. And this is why information is so crucial. I mean, we're so dumb as the masses. I'm sorry. We're still supporting and participating on the censored, owned, known, tyrannical, oppressive platforms known as ScrewTube or YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even X now. Unbelievably clear. Now it's been liberated to an extent, and as you could see, I can use it more so effective than a lot of. But the fact of the matter is, like, I'm trying to get everyone over to Rumble. I'm trying. We haven't answered that call. It's like we don't even understand anymore and grasp what freedom means or care about it because our actions go against. It's like we're happy with slavery. We're showing back up to the oppressors. But if enough of us could even understand that simple truth in this existence and seemingly overnight just transition to the free speech ones, guess what? we wouldn't miss the old one, because now this new space is going to have all the interactions of the former. It's like, we want to be it's interesting at this point. Over my dead body, I'm going to continuously fight, but right here to fully absorb that, unbelievable. A class 1 carcinogen, like, what?
And governments could not possibly ignore that.
Some say the scientific debate about the health
They
effects
are
of microwave
intentionally
radiation is
ignoring
over, but the question remains, can we afford to take this risk?
No.
Medical doctors are requesting delayed deployment until testing can be conducted on the long-term biological effects of 5G technology.
Area and physiological effects.
Okay, let's continue. We're not making this up. Nothing conspiratorial about it. Like I said, tens of thousands of studies. Let's back it up. Let's just go through some of the information.
iPhones, when most people put it to their head, up to 2 hours later, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch into the brain tissue is still heated from using the phone against your ear. And when you repeatedly heat those things, then tissue actually starts to become neoplastic. We have a pair of surgeons here in town in Dallas. They're busy 5 days a week, booked every single day, all day, taking out parotid gland tumors from people having AirPods, Bluetooth devices, because it's actually causing neoplastic activity. So EMFs absolutely decrease life expectancy. iPhone.
Irregardless whether you're symptomatic at this point or not, it would just frankly be wise. I get the convenience of the wireless world. When I was out contracting, swinging that hammer, and I started using earbuds, oh my gosh, game changer. Never going back to cords. No way, no how. This is what's up. Even for safety, right? Grinder getting caught in those cords or something, directing it into your shirt, right? Just eat you up. And so many other things, like the gym. But once I started, like the canary in the coal mine, getting migraine headaches daily, debilitating, bedridden, just ramping up just that singular area, just migraines, rendering life a hell on earth. What? Luckily, I had someone in my life to bust out her Ghostbuster machine, show that the earbuds I was utilizing had a tenfold X time signal enhancer than my cellular device itself, and the way I was, you're positioning it inside the ear, the impact was greater. And I was like, okay, well, I'll order this set. I'll get this wired one and I'll wear that a week just to test, just to see. But when my migraines dissipated, wow, I went another week. By the end of the second week, the 4 or 5 different pairs of earbuds I had collected at that point that I'd cycle through, over $1,000 in value, money I spent, I couldn't, in good conscience, like gift this to anyone. That I just threw them all in the trash. Absorbing this information, seeing the thermal imagery, seeing the actual data correlated to the tumors and cancers themselves, why on God's green earth would anyone take that risk? Whether you're symptomatic or not, why is it I had to react? I had to suffer to a debilitating migraine state. And this is just speaking in general, like, why is it we have to experience personally such a sheer level of hell to absorb anything? That is the problem. It's like we are mindless zombies in this life. Not caring a damn thing other than the bread and circus that's being spoon-fed to us. That's not living. That's not what this life is about. Do you still use earbuds? Do you even airplane mode your phone when you sleep? Do you at a minimum put your phone at a maximum distance in your room when you sleep? Just subtle little things to integrate and see for yourself any impact. The majority of us will see impact. I guarantee that, depending on your level of awareness. For those that won't because there's or don't see any, fantastic. You're at a pretty resilient level. And the only way you're going to maintain that is being more aware, which is a tougher thing, once again, to admittedly do unless you suffer, because the majority of us don't even do anything or pay attention to any of this until that day comes. So many of us aren't correlating, and the doctors aren't. Everything to them is pharmaceutical. They're incentivized to do it. Now, there's rare doctors that speak out on it, such as the McCullough Institution, Dr. McCullough, Dr. Artis, Jane Ruby. But as many of you know, the main cause of COVID, and that's bullshit, that's propaganda, COVID, the main cause was the rollout of 5G in 2020. All kinds of new frequencies, EMFs being unleashed on the unwitting public, leading to new flu-like disease. When you look into everything and connect these dots, these hurts, wow, there's the symptoms had nothing to do with a fraudulent PCR test and a virus, a respiratory virus, as they labeled it. Okay. Now, for a lot of us, I get it's a hard pill to swallow, and they just need a talking head to talk about it. Now, I don't even necessarily, great for Newsmax to do this clip and have this gentleman on, because it's bigger than the cellular towers. Let's touch on the other aspect of the poisons being put in the air to absorb into the body to make the towers and the frequencies more impactful to your body. So those resilient, you got to have defenses to both. And frankly, we can only band-aid it so much. We must address these threats at the source. And there's nothing conspiratorial about this again. Once again, RFK stated, we will put a stop to this crime. In one hand, I don't trust him. We can't leave it up to him. But he's stating, so it's not a contrail. There's no conspiracy about it. He's not calling water vapors and ice crystallization a crime. He's calling the intentional spray being released in the stratosphere all over the world that has proven to have aluminum, nanoparticles of aluminum, barium, strontium, nanoplastics, even bacteria, and in 6 different states recently admitting, they had to publish it, they were aerosolizing vaccinations. So we never addressed the scam pandemic. Oh, surprise. New method. We're going to totally subvert and skip around your effing consent, whether you like it or not. It's not ideal for us because it's not as immediately as impactful as a direct injectable, and it costs us a bit more, but we're willing to go to any means necessary. After all, we are fighting global population control, right? At least that's what they're labeled. If you really looked into it, it's biblical, and they are serving the devil himself. And what is the devil trying to do with us? We're not minions. God loves us in this state. And a lot of amazing pastors have touched on this. Well, the devil's real ploy with us children here in this state, knowing God's love for us, is to try to get at God. The more he can inflict harm, blood, pain, and have us be lost in the wilderness in this existence to get at God, the better. It's hard for us to wrap around our mind around the why. Why put a bioweapon in everyone's arms? And we're just touting it to all this blind trust in nation states, World Economic Forum, governments, 3-letter agencies from CIA, FBI, CDC, FDA, you name it. No, just clear all the noise, biblical, And we're giving more credence and blind trust to the evil infrastructures, corrupted infrastructures around us than the simplicity of the spiritual battle that has existed since Adam and Eve. And we're getting wrapped up in the deception. We're more apt at this point over polarized propaganda to point the finger at one another than properly absorb the real threat, the truth, the simple truth. And it's wild to see people do mental gymnastics trying to, and this is simple. We could really break this down, and we have. And we go through like the real fine points to have people absorb. But when you really step back, the simplicity of this is astonishing that we aren't resilient enough to boom, see it for what it is. Goes to show the impact of evil infiltrating our education systems, generational propaganda, things of that nature. They get us young, really young. But I digress. A lot of ranting, a lot on my chest. But the why is because I care about you. I love you. I want the best opportunity for us here, and we're letting it slip through our fingers. Why? There's nothing more important than to respond to the dang war tactics that are not just at our doorsteps, because this level of weaponry from frequencies and nanoparticles are breaching your front door. It's impacting you while you sleep and everyone you care about. And this is real. And it's happening. And the data is overwhelming. It's there. And we're not connecting it. We're not responding as though it's a bullet. We try to excuse even the knowing and doing the research, because why would they do that? I would rather blindly entrust all this other stuff where biblically it's laid out. So a lot of people just need this talking head. They need this high end versus some loon in his little camper studio podcast screaming into a microphone. They need this level of professional. So I'll pull myself off the screen, because they've just, and it's a lot of the boomer types and others that just frankly have been robotic and can only absorb. So utilize this clip. Utilize just this interaction for the boomer types, or those that can only absorb information through this level of information absorption. Use it to the maximum benefit it can. Let me take myself off here. This is good. I could even see the reluctancy in this talking head, but frick Newsmax. They never apologize. They push the safe and effective narrative, but I digress. Grateful for this little segment to be out irregardless.
All right, an update now to a story that we've been following for you. No one else is talking about this, but we are. Have you ever looked up at the sky and noticed exhaust trails spread out in all different directions? The media want the public to believe that this is all made up, that weather engineering, or chemtrails as they are commonly called, are just some conspiracy theory, to the point where when you Google this, the very first thing that appears is a Wikipedia page titled Chemtrail Conspiracy Theory. It's a conspiracy theory, apparently. But if it really is just a conspiracy, then why have multiple states passed laws banning it? Florida passed a bill banning all-weather engineering over the skies just a month ago. And when Tennessee passed a similar bill over the summer, the state was mocked by the legacy media. NBC running this headline: Tennessee lawmakers vote to ban geoengineering with allusions to chemtrails conspiracy theory. It's always a conspiracy theory. So many people have noticed these mysterious lines in the sky, but very few people are talking about the possibility that our own government is doing this, that they are poisoning the air that we breathe every day without our consent, all in the name of climate change, preventing global warming to reflect the sun's rays back into space, cancer-causing chemicals in some cases, including aluminum and bromium, and other chemicals sprayed into the upper stratosphere to manipulate weather. And it could be happening all over the world. Joining us now for more, our next guest is the lead researcher and administrator of Geoengineering Watch, Dane Winnington.
This guy's awesome.
It's great to have you on, Dane. Appreciate you being here. So we've all seen the lines in the sky. We've been told that it's just exhaust from planes. What are we seeing up there? What's really going on?
You're seeing a sprayed particulate dispersion. It's not jet exhaust. It's not from the jet fuel. And unfortunately, that narrative is just a regurgitated official denial that's happening in too many circles, including at the very top. This is a sprayed particulate dispersion. We're not guessing. Geoengineeringwatch.org at the cost of well into six figures. Took a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration flying lab, top scientists in it to altitude, sampled what these heavy aircraft were emitting, processed that at Rensselaer Polytechnic in New York, world-renowned lab, found what we knew we'd find, climate engineering elements. And we also have up-close film footage of these aircraft at altitude, nozzles visible, turning on and off. It's not condensation. It's not jet exhaust. And that picture you see up right there from an air show, that's a dispersion as well. That's what planes use at air shows to make the patterns they make. It's not jet exhaust. It's not condensation. It's a sprayed dispersion.
Okay, how long has this been going on, and who is responsible for this? Who is doing this, in your opinion?
We have multiple government agencies involved. I'm not guessing, again, on that point either. We have mountains of documents. One 800-page Senate document going back to 1978 outlines intergovernmental cooperation, about 10 or 12 agencies, federal agencies. They're all compartmentalized. But ultimately, all roads lead back to those who print the money. They control militaries, they control elected officials in too many cases. But the bottom line is this is truly an elephant in the sky that people can't decipher, that something is obviously going on. And we have the entire global climate science community describing exactly what we see in our skies that they want to do, to put jet aircraft in the sky to spray light scattering particles. They say to slow down the warming of the planet. But in fact, we know these operations are further fueling the climate problems, not mitigating them.
Okay. According to the EPA website we checked today, the federal government is not aware of there ever being a contrail intentionally formed over the United States for the purpose of geoengineering or weather
The deceivers,
modification.
the liars.
Do you agree with that?
You know, that is absolutely mind-numbing denial,
Right.
deception, and why would we expect otherwise? In this document I just described a moment ago, 1978, your listeners can look at this at geoengineeringwatch.org. That is our site. We're the largest site in the world in this subject, non-political. In that document, it describes intergovernmental cooperation again, and it describes total blanket legal immunity for anyone and everyone involved. They're never going to admit to this issue. And again, we have, going back to 1963, we have...
Wait, why aren't they going to
62.
admit to this issue? Why wouldn't they admit to this issue?
Because the liability issues are completely incalculable. You're talking about highly toxic particles raining down through the air column with a known endless list of degenerative diseases, neurological...
Okay, well, why is the media, we can all see these lines from time to time in the sky, and they just look bizarre. Why is the media, why are politicians so hesitant to talk about this? I don't get that.
Well, my thanks to Newsmax for your willing...
Let's add the question. Why push safe and effective? Why withhold the known adverse side effects? Why? A lot of these whys are keeping people from doing the proper research that would lead them to acknowledging, holy smokes, this is as real of a war tactic actively being played out against me and my loved ones day after day, day in, day out, because I'm seeing it in the skies. I'm seeing, go get yourself a EMF reader and you'll see how bombarded your own internal home is, and from a lot of your own additional devices, from Wi-Fi, cellular, all those have an impact. 100%. And it's known, and there's so many other individuals that even show we could be running under different hertz, different frequencies that could even be helpful versus harmful. But it's selectively being chosen to be harmful versus helpful. And this dates way back, even into the radio, early radio, and when they switched from more so healthy to harmful, intentionally, basically pushed by the Rockefellers. You can't make this stuff up. So don't let these whys trip you up. Why is the devil evil? Why does he want to come after us? Why does he want us to choose him as the Father versus our loving Creator? Really? Unbelievable. So the hesitancy of this man, I could see it, but he's not really willing. I'm sure even after this, did you properly research? Did you do what you could do? I doubt it, because I could see it right here on his freaking face. Fully absorbed. It's no different. We are not responding fast enough to the bullets that are literally impacting our loved ones. And I'm livid because I see it. I feel it. And we're deteriorating. We are so much more. We don't even understand what a normal functioning level is in this life anymore. We have been deteriorated so much. There's scripture talking about a mustard seed of faith moving mountains. We can't even fathom. And it is worth losing our lives over. It is worth taking up that cross. It is worth having any other impact. That is the only glory that is to be had here. It's not what you hand down to your children in the material world at all. We're not even properly addressing the pornography in our elementary schools and the indoctrination, the lies of history being told in our elementary. The furthering depth of indoctrination, blindly entrusted in everything. The impact and intention of the schools are to have us compliant little slaves versus critical, independent thinkers.
Is to cover this issue, and that's what sets you apart. So I've had interview requests from New York Times, BBC, USA Today, National Geographic. None of those interviews reach fruition because they got a boot put over their neck because they're not allowed to cover this issue. So Thank you for covering it.
Okay, no, we're happy to do it. Let me play you a soundbite. We had the EPA Commissioner, Administrator Lee Zeldin, on the program a month ago, and I asked him about the flooding in Texas, and I was wondering, a company had said they were seeding the clouds at that time, if you remember, in that poor Camp Mystic, all those campers passed away. Take a look at his response. Did cloud seeding or any form of weather manipulation contribute to what happened in Texas?
It's been more questions than answers so far. There's nothing that is confirmed in any confirmed government report that says that the cloud seeding operations caused the flooding that took place.
Okay, and he is supposed to rejoin us on Friday, and I'll ask him that question again. In your opinion, did geoengineering or cloud seeding in some form play a role in what we saw happen in Texas over the summer? And does the government just flat out, do they have the ability to manipulate the weather?
100%.
Yes and yes. And about what happened in Texas is not my opinion. We recorded the frequency transmissions that manipulated that storm and held it in place. These are patented processes. And we still have access to those data loops. Is very surprising. And I want to make clear.
Let's shift the paradigm. It's not woo-woo thing. It's woo-woo to not acknowledge the war playing out. That's woo-woo. That's a conspiracy thing. That's what's hindering people in so many levels. Time to graduate. Time to level up. Why are we selling ourselves short? We have such a finite amount of opportunity and time and energy to commit. Let's stop absorbing into and playing into all the smoke and the mirrors. There's great blessing. There's great challenge to showing up. It wasn't easy for Christ to do what he did. It wasn't easy for all of the apostles to follow suit in his footsteps. But they fulfilled the purpose of this existence. Let's rise to the challenge.
That the small single-engine aircraft that was shown a few moments ago with the flares on the wings, that is not climate engineering. That is localized, publicized cloud seeding. It's used as a distraction. The company you mentioned about the Texas flooding was Rainmaker, with a 25-year-old CEO who's connected to Peter Thiel, who's connected to Bill Clinton. We have a picture of him cozied up with Bill Clinton. So he's playing the part of distraction. climate engineering operations compared to localized cloud seeding is an ant to an elephant. So we recorded, this is posted on our site. People can watch the manipulation of that storm in Texas with frequency transmissions. Same with Hurricane Helene, same with Hurricane Harvey. It's all there.
Just quickly, because we've got about 30 seconds. Are you afraid that our enemies, adversarial countries to the United States, could be doing this to us, manipulating the weather?
Well, they've all been involved, and our Senate document I just mentioned proved it. Otherwise, adversarial nations.
Yeah, that's such small think. As though our country is pro listening to its people, protecting the people. You got to understand the World Economic Forum, the globalist aspect to it, the new world order, the elite infrastructure that transcends nations and borders and countries, utilizing it. Yes, this is 100%, and more so when you really look into it. America is on the leading edge to really not combat this, but fulfill it, pushing it. It's terrible. So this man's stuck in this think as though we are the do-gooders historically. So much. Let's just finish it up. I'm so sorry. I'm limited, and I feel like I've already exhausted some of my minimal bandwidth to even articulate and help connect the dots. So I'll try my best to bite my tongue.
Just cooperating on this issue because of the cross-border ramifications.
Okay, Iran is one of the nations that has accused the United States of stealing their rain.
Because we have.
And they've made that claim for years. I believe we've got a screen share to support that. How do you respond to that?
Again, the fact that geoengineering is effective at cutting off precipitation is inarguable. They're doing the same thing to the U.S. West. So who's the enemy here? Again,
That's the
I ask
question.
people to remember the oath the military took to protect their citizens from all threats, foreign and domestic. Is the U.S. population also an enemy for those who truly control power at this point?
Yeah, we're going to let people decide on their own. Just out of curiosity, I don't think I've asked you, where are these planes taking off from?
Everywhere. Again, there's military bases everywhere.
Military bases, commercial airports?
Even commercial aircraft, we know we're not implicating commercial personnel or pilots, not at all.
Because it's being automated.
Commercial aircraft with commercial markings are being used. We have film footage of them dispersing, nozzles visible, turning on and off, period. No debate about that.
All right, Dane Wigington, appreciate you being with us. 2 states, Tennessee and Florida, have passed.
Well, thank you, Newsmax, for at least allowing that segment. Still waiting for their apologies, peddling bioweapon shots. Okay, this is no joke. Of course we feel it. It's right in our faces. Hijacked by DARPA and spreading chemtrails and creating storms is causing dizziness, migraines, fatigue, flu symptoms, muscle aches, mental problems, hair loss, and so much more. Don't be fooled. NextRad, HARP, EMF. Because you could actually see in the sky the ripple effects, okay, how this coincides. Imagine you absorb a lot of this material into your body, how it's now influenced. I mean, we can see the implications and the impacts it has in our sky, okay? When you look at the recordings of these pulsations happening, like, look, it's almost full coverage, folks. You can't hide from this. And it will soon be entirely full coverage. These pulsations are mostly getting ramped up and amplified as you sleep, disrupting everything to healing. Think about it. This is one of the attributors to putting our bodies more so in a fight or flight than a normal place that is allowing cancers and all this chronic illness to run rampant. Parasites as well, because our bodies naturally have its own defenses, but you ramp up inflammation and weakness within the body, it can't properly even defend the thing. So anyway, causation, correlation, this was amazing. Dan Wigington hopped on Tucker. You know what? Let's pull up these two And that was a great interaction. Okay. So it's not all doom and gloom. All right. This was the Geoengineering Watch. Okay. There's the Dimming documentary in here. Fantastic. If like this singular, if you actually got someone thirsty, this URL right here, geoengineeringwatch.org, okay, has all the connections and ties you need. You can contact, donate documents, the patents, the resource, the tests they've done. It just goes over, all the data, brings all the receipts, health, nothing. All right, that documentary is worth its weight in gold. That singularly exposes, it just brings all the proof. You can just sit back, watch this with the family. How is it even a choice? You're going to watch The Christmas Story this Christmas versus something that could get your family engaged in the war, okay? And acknowledging the war tactics. If we don't make those subtle sacrifices, we get what we get. We're not fulfilling. We're failing God. We're failing ourselves. We're failing this opportunity and this gift. It's hard to even say that, but of being here in this time, right here, right now. We were chosen, or whatever. We were put in this time. Let's show up. And this is one way we could show up. The geoengineering.com. Very simple. The link to this is in the description below. Very easy. You could just take action. USA, you could click the states. Here we are, Arizona. I've done this multiple times. You just walk through here, send a letter to your representative. You could read through it yourself. Very simple. But you just put your name, your email. You could and send this out. I haven't clicked into this for a while, but yeah, send a letter to your representative. There we go. Read through additional comments. At a bare minimum, we all should be doing this. We should be calling all of our siblings and loved ones and friends, our colleagues, to take this action. Yesterday, the fact it's getting sent out to our representatives through their webpage, in my eyes, is more important than individually. Because when we do it individually, if you were to just copy and paste and go to your email and send it, how do we hold our representatives responsible to not answering if we all did that? If we all did that, we don't even have the accounting for all of that. How do we have the organization to be like, hey, everyone in Arizona sent this to you guys and you guys are just sweeping it under the rug? But through the webpage, we have the accounting. We have the proof. Every citizen in Arizona sent this. You are not listening to your constituents. That in and of itself could bring in legal ramifications, an immediate step down, ideally getting someone that is going to address our grievances futuristically, right? That's a crucial part of everything that we're missing. And folks, it isn't that it's like you're not sick. You are suffering from chemtrails, vaccinations, EMFs, GMOs, pesticides, big pharma, the cabal. You can see where we got the image. It just modified. Yes, we are being bombarded. And this should be enough proof. We could walk through it. Now, I know I've done a lot of the ranting. Let's go ahead and play this clip. Yeah, we're almost done. I freaking love you guys. I appreciate you. Once again, intent is to give us a shot, to live out lives as God intended, to seize the moment and the purpose and the meaning of this existence more so than the materialistic, self-centered, selfish, white picket fence jargon we've been spoon-fed. This is what life is about. This is the reality of the life and the time and the era we are given. There is not a choice to sweeping this under the rug any further. We are getting more and more distant from, I see it, the ability to even fighting back and answering this at all. And as a collective, we hold all the cards. We just need to snap out of it, get more organized. We hold all the cards. We could pull ourselves away from a nation's fake currency. We could address all the interest. Just food for thought. We hold all the cards. Just humor this thought. I've been thinking about it more and more. For example, if we got, I don't know the number, but we should get some type of, number cruncher where if we build out a webpage, we have an oath, a pledge, whatever you want to call it. Let's say for all the homeowners that have a mortgage, okay? And don't even get me started on Trump's 50-year. What a joke. That is just peddling more money into his buddies, the bankers' hands. So instead, on a $500,000 home, 6% interest, locked in, let's say as is 30 years, you're paying almost $1 million. That's theft. That's thievery. Why are we accepting that? That's unacceptable. And that's a secure asset. It's a hard asset. And we even insure it. So even the mortgager's entirely protected, right? Like you had 50 years, 6%, locked in, boom. $1.5 million. Triple the $500,000. How is that not theft? I swear, mafias of old had better ethics than that. But we're accepting it. So just for example, we build out a webpage. We have people sign the pledge where we accept the amount that we agreed upon on the home. But we want a seat at the table. The interest is unacceptable. We want, for example, just throwing it out there, a 10%, we're willing to pay a 10% on every 100,000 lent. So that 500,000, for example, would be 550,000. Sure, we'll even pay the interest more so up front. So if we were to sell the home or something along those lines, boom, the bankers would get their 10% no matter what. Boom, securing this position, right? You break that down even to a 30-year, by the way, your payment is only $1,500. Where before, under the 6%, $3,000. So you're literally cutting that in half. So now you even take it to where, let's keep it at $3,000 and actually cut the lending to 15 years versus 30 years, right? We're just accepting the slavery over the debted system. So if we get enough of us to sign this petition or oath, whatever it is, once we achieve enough people that, hey, when you sign this, when we get, let's say, 100,000, just keep it simple. We get 100,000 people signing this. We're going to issue a date. You got to put in your email. We're going to send out the email. And this is the date we stop paying collectively. But we're admitting, hey, we're not running away from the agreed upon amount. We just want to renegotiate the terms of the loan. And we find interest to be unacceptable, and that's thievery. And that's indebting, and that's how we're losing generational wealth through the system. It's unacceptable. We're willing to be along these lines, and who knows what we compromise and settle on, right? But we need to gain a seat at the table. But there's strength in numbers. The point we're doing it through 100,000, they can't sick the National Guard. They can't repossess all those positions or all the homes, right, through the police force, things like that, because we actually would then actually have police officers and military folk more than likely signing that. We hold all the cards. Now that's just a dumb brain, harebrained kind of idea, right? Get real thinkers engaged in how to build it out, structure it. We could really stick it to the debtors that be. And it's the same kind of concept. We could have the government operating as it was designed, not trampling upon. I mean, my gosh. All the war crimes we've even done, this singular administration completely no regard to the legal ramification, just everything. What's happening in Venezuela? What happened in Iran? The blind support for Israel as the international courts deemed them committing crimes against humanity and war crime. War crime after war crime after war crime. So much so they even issued a arrest warrant for Netanyahu, which, by the way, he's already scheduled for a 5th visit to this administration in 10 months. He's literally visiting like every other month. Explain that. An insignificant country visiting more than anyone else. Smaller than New Jersey. Anyway, it just goes to show who's really pulling the strings. And it's not being directed from we, the people. As our founding fathers built out the infrastructure, intentionally putting the power in we, the people's hands. We've handed that power over. It's being utilized against us. We're being taxed to oblivion. We don't even understand what freedom is anymore. I laugh because Trump's doing these silly addresses as though he's going to address the income tax. And people are like singing his praises, but they're trying to institute a 30% consumption tax, which would even be more detrimental when people actually properly do the math on it. You can't make this stuff up. When the people that came here and fled tyranny understood, it's not just the founding fathers, people that came here with the idea of freedom, valued it, understood it at its depth. When a 2% T tax was trying to be issued, they faced it appropriately and won. So I mock and laugh of those that are even minus the 30% consumption tax. It's like, really, you're still paying a criminal, illegal, unconstitutional income tax? Why haven't you educated yourself? Why haven't you gone to freedomlawschool.org? That only applies to less than 1% of the actual U.S. population. You got to specifically live within the Washington borders. There's no legal ramifications outside of that 1% to not paying the criminal, illegal, unconstitutional income tax. How else do I need to phrase it for people to absorb it and look into it? The other 99% of Americans, it's voluntary. And there's nothing patriotic. It's actually patriotic to not pay for your demise to an oppressive, tyrannical, oversized government that is just squandering your money. You literally utilizing against you. Where else do they get the funds to build out an infrastructure that has nothing to do with cellular communication? It's being weaponized. How else are they getting the funds to put all these chemical compounds into the own air you're breathing without your consent? And all the funds to kick off the internet campaign to keep you brainwashed in believing it's not actually taking place. It's literally being utilized against you. I know they like to use historical examples regarding tax to just fear porn you and out of fear scare you into compliance. Don't you understand the legalities that get you in hot water regarding income tax is in the filing itself under penalty and perjury? That's a law-binding document you sign. Any discrepancy there, boom. Yeah, okay, so that's how former mafia bosses, went down, right? But because it was in the filing. When you don't file and you know your rights and you submit it, it's kind of like those that know their rights and aren't complete assholes when they get pulled over and they just know their rights and they firmly lay them out to an officer and they just walk away. That's the exact situation that plays out with a knock on the door from the IRS when someone knows their rights. And there's nothing legally they can do about it. When you look at the 80 million Americans that no longer file income tax, where are the mass arrests? Okay. So there's so many other ways we can rein in collectively and be. No one else has our interests at heart other than the people, as our founding fathers understood. And we could be the proper checks and balances they intended for our nation to stay on the proper course and not be in proxy to Satan himself and fulfilling the synagogue of Satan right here on American soil. We are the driving force for the synagogue of Satan. We are on a course, I believe, we will see God's wrath. Not just evil's intended outcomes, God's wrath. And we'll deserve it. We'll deserve it unless we answer the call, unless we see it for what it is. Okay, let's dive back into the information. I am just full of air today, and I'm just ranting like crazy. I don't care. I'm beating this dead horse. Please, if you want to rein in and have normal dialogue on these topics, and you could see how you can make this way more impactful, please reach out. Let's team up. muzzlechat@gmail.com. Whether you want to be on the podcast, whether you just have some suggestions, anything. I just want to see the proper shifts where we can secure our future, our freedoms, our health. I recently experienced censorship, just even stating, go ahead and try it. Start posting just Synagogue of Satan. Create your own post. That is hitting an AI algorithmic censorship. Who stated Synagogue of Satan? Christ himself. So yes, the Bible. Christ's words himself, your freedom of speech, all be infringed upon. Evil doesn't want that direct exposure. And if we're not willing to press on any of that, then clearly we've lost what freedom even means.
Vaccinated, not you didn't get this BioNTech. Pfizer called it BioNTech. It's bio nanotech or bioneural tech. You could, and mRNA is mode RNA. It's a computer program, and it is really about. I'll start with this. We are humans, and we are bioelectromagnetic. We have an electroencephalogram. We know that we have our brain functions with plus minus electricity, impulse, stimulus, response, neural network. They know that. They give a stimuli and they get a response. They have mapped the brain, the Human Brain Project, and also what Obama in 2013 has paid millions for the mapping the brain. They have already done that. So they can target your brain, but they can also target those who are vaccinated because they have oxide graphene and metal, chrome, nickel, aluminum in all vaccines. And then they have much more parasites, and it's all synthetic. It is nothing biological. It is a receptor, it's an emitter,
wow.
And it is like a small microcomputer nanocircuit that turns on and off. It has been studied many, many times by different scientists. If the 5G is on, it puts and triggers this nanocircuit, and if you turn it off, it liquefies it. But it can really biocode. And for people to understand is that every molecule has a weight, every weight has a frequency, and the frequency of a pattern of a disease has been identified by Dr. Benveniste, who was killed then, and then some people tried to get his patent. is biocoded, and he proved to Professor Montagnier, who accepted, that HIV is a biocode.
Right. Oh, it's so in our face. Please absorb this picture. Now, there's a lot I want to touch on that she even went over, but hey, just ponder the connections she made for themselves and research them for yourselves. But please, if not for yourself, if not for your parents, whether you have children or not, please absorb this picture. AI generated or whatnot still has a level of impacting us. These are silent weapons for quiet wars. Microwave radiation assault. And we see this. The stats are overwhelming regarding our younglings. They're not hitting the milestones of previous generations, and it's all being attributed to these wavelengths and much, much more. Let's not fail them. In failing them, we're failing ourselves, we're failing humanity, and we're failing God. The whole purpose. In 2001, NASA describes future weaponry for 2025, outlining warfare capability. Weaponized aerosols, RF microwave towers, EMF now. Mechanical micro dust, smart dust now. And it's whether it's smart within itself or it's just smartly being impacted through the frequencies, well, whatever definition that all that means, you look into it for yourself and come to that conclusion. Chemical and biological warfare, individual and societal. Targeted pathogens, brain interactions, low frequency modulation, interactions between low power microwatts per, and it goes into the specifics. But this is targeting brain function, water contamination. You could look into this information in these NASA documents that they have up themselves. I know this would be incredibly hard for you to read. It's hard for me to even read, and it's a little bigger on my screen than yours. So just click the links provided below, trying to add enough value and organization to where a cast like this, I'm trying to bring enough value, enough shock factor, enough organization, all the things we are lacking. Okay? And the fact of the matter is this topic, health, all this, and you connect it to evil. These are all the most suppressed, censored, shadow banned. It's why this can't exist. It hasn't been viral. We've been so hindered on reaching the masses and growth. Now, I know, and I'll admit, a lot of it has to do with my approach, my defects, my faults, 100%. But we can't. Finish the point, James. But the greatest impact has been the control over information. There hasn't been, other than Rumble, there hasn't been a platform I have not personally been entirely kicked off of at one point or another than Rumble. Even Rumble has algorithmic. And it's interesting, I have yet to even see a muzzle chat show up on their main page, but I know they more so pedestal and have the ones on viewership, right? Like up there. I have yet to even be able to find it there. What's that about? I know this is a lot. Kind of fire hosing it. What's the point of this existence? If we're gonna live in denial and ignore a war being waged around us, directly impacting those we love. And I put we love in air quotes because it's like, if we love them, we'd be doing everything on behalf. It's interesting. I've used this analogy before, but it's like, would a parent be, if you're sitting on the couch and your front door is right here, would you stay planted in that couch if a stranger made entry into your home, literally he's carrying some type of poison and proceeded to poison your children in front of you? You just sit on that couch and do nothing? People were like, are you crazy, dude? No. Like, they'd be dead, right? You come after my children, you're dead, right? But the denial on these tactics, there is a stranger. And it's through a more covert method than having an individual breach the door of your home. But the impact's nonetheless. There's a stranger pumping poisons into the air we all breathe that is being found within your house. You can gain your own microscope, sample it plates, aluminum on a nanospectrum, and nature doesn't even exist. The only aluminum that measures in the nanospectrum is created by man. So if it doesn't even exist in nature, how are you going to be able to find these nano aluminum particles within your home, on your pillow, on your child's pillow? How do you excuse that? It's the denial aspect. But what is the difference? Strangers effectively breaching that door irregardless and poisoning your children and yourself. And we're not doing anything about it because it's just easier to watch the NFL. It's just easier. Enough. None of that even matters with the trajectory and the path we're on. This is biblical. This is spiritual warfare. Why are we not willing to acknowledge the devil himself? Like, come to terms with his mission, trying to get at us to hurt God. We're just going to play innocent pawns in that scheme he's enacting on us? I get the frequency. It's hard to swallow. I get the aerosol. Hard to swallow. It's hard to even swallow the truth of the scam pandemic. But in court, like, Tucker even admitted when Dan Wigington, like, he had that podcast, he's like, I'd really have a hard time coming to terms with this tactic, this method, if it wasn't for the scam pandemic. And the solution they chalked up as safe and effective. Like, that was warfare so blatantly right there in front of our face that it's like we're not allowing the why would they do that to hinder us from even going down that journey. Well, if they're willing to go to those measures there and we never properly address it, of course they would go to this. What else would we expect? My dear brothers and sisters, I hope and pray more of us snap the frick out of this robotic matrix, whatever you want to call it, zombie-like state. And we seize this moment in time in our lives to the fullest, come what may. Pick up that cross and carry it. Challenge the pastor speaking pro-Israel chosen bullshit. We know. The deceiver, that is the synagogue of Satan peddling all that. The arbitrary lines drawn on a map relatively recently in 1948 have nothing to do with biblical Israel. And the more depth you look into, even looking into Judaism, I don't even believe that properly represents at all what Judaism, all that stuff. Judaism wasn't even a thing in the Old Testament, by the way. But what even Jew means, we are so far. The devil has shifted it that one doesn't even fulfill the other. And I believe now it makes sense. That has more so become satanic worship and evil and supremacy. And we're fearful to even say it for what it is. But Jesus wasn't. He says it in Revelation 2:9 and repeats it in 3:9 and many other times biblically, that he knows of our oppressors. They say they are Jew, but they are not Jew. They are of the synagogue of Satan. Very clear. I should take more lessons from Christ's walk. I love his parables. I love how few words he utilizes and really drives a message home. But it leaves room for interpretation, right? And that's where so much of us even get it wrong. I'm not demonizing a whole world religion. There's a lot of individuals where Christ's other comment for forgiving them, like they know not what they do, where their intentions are pure. They've just, whether getting wrapped up into cults here or political there or religious here, but there are a lot of individuals that know what they do. And you can see rabbis out there literally speaking. They don't worship God. They worship the devil as God. Blatantly, literally putting it in those terms. And we're not seeing it. We're not willing to hear it. It's wild. What a crazy world we live in. But this is the only path to fully living. Everything else is more so fake. I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in yet again. The why. Do not forget the why. Why I'm so encouraged. Why I'm so emotionally invested in this. After all, at the end of the day, it's to see you thrive, to secure our futures. And we can't do that if we can't maintain a level of health and maintain a level of freedom. More specifically, a level of freedom of speech. If this touches you at all, please hit that like button. Share this. Let's beat back that uphill battle of suppression once and for all. Not even for me. I'm too defective in this. For you. Let's find someone that could sit in this chair and do better than me and grow this to the moon. I will hand it over. All the logins, everything. I'll give the free lessons. I just want to see maximum impact in securing just that. Fulfilling our lives. I love you all so much. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I don't know when I'll be back on. This is so pressing to me that maybe I'll try a different angle and a different approach tomorrow. We'll see. But if there's a next time, God bless you. You know what? Right before I say take care, let's go over real quickly some scripture references regarding responsibility, because we must up that level of responsibility on behalf of God and for ourselves. Responsible people admit their wrongs. What have I gotten wrong? I'll happily eat humble pie and admit it. We got 1 Chronicles 21:8, Matthew 25:14 through 30. Responsible people are faithful with what they have been given. Guys, it's not just given in the financial sense. It's not just given in the emotional sense. It's information. You're responsible with what the Holy Spirit presses upon your heart and the path God directs you on. I see too many Christians, and because I've experienced it myself, not act upon those promptings. You're given a gift, whether it be information, that spark, that warrior spirit. We must be responsible with that and answer and acknowledge it. John 3:18-19. People are responsible for their decisions about Christ. Wow. So much to absorb here. Acts 6:1 through 7. Responsible people know their abilities and limitations. I'll openly admit I don't like that one. But it's important because we can't exhaust ourselves to a point of demoralization. So we must, it's like no one can make up the full body of Christ. So let's effectively be responsible and organized to where we can be that. And not exhaust ourselves and add up another depressed statistic of now. People are responsible for their own actions. That's James 1:13-15. People are responsible for their own actions. Yeah, you'll be responsible for tuning into the NFL during a wartime and not effectively protecting your loved ones. You will be responsible for the actions not taken and the opportunities given. I'm looking. I should put a mirror right here. That's weird, but just that meaning though, like of I am speaking to the choir. And I mean that. I love you. Until next time, take care.